What Stalks Dead Man's Curve? Presented by Absolutely Haunted in America. Hello. Welcome. Hope you enjoy the video.
If you've ever heard of Atchison, Kansas, it's probably because you're into the paranormal. Ghost lovers know it well, especially the infamous Sallie House. But I'm here to tell you that Kansas haunted history doesn't stop at that crooked little house. The entire northeast corner of Kansas seems steeped in sorrowful echoes of the past, and some of them aren't content to stay quiet. I had followed my husband from our home in Indiana to this seemingly quiet place in search of a better life. He had landed a solid construction job that promised benefits and steady pay, so we packed up our lives and our 4 teenage kids and moved west, landing in Atchison. We rented a house within days, and once I got the kids settled into school, I found myself with long, lonely days to fill. My teens had adjusted seamlessly. Within days, they were into sports, friends, and many of the school clubs. You name it, they jumped in with both feet. My husband was working long hours with plenty of overtime, which left me adrift and craving something that felt like mine. I've always worked, always enjoyed the camaraderie of coworkers and the satisfaction of a hard day's work. The quiet was suffocating. So I took a job in a nearby town, 30 minutes away, a small commute but worth every mile. I worked with a nonprofit that helped adults with special needs learn life skills. After years of working in fast food, this felt like a calling. My clients smiled when I walked into the room. I mattered. That job fed my spirit. But the road that led me there, that's where this haunting tale begins. I worked evening shifts, usually clocking out around 10:30 p.m. The drive home took me down narrow, 2-lane country roads. The roads were so dark that it felt like the stars were the only lights. If you've never driven through rural Kansas at night, you don't know true darkness. There's no glow from city lights, just the yawning blackness and the hush of fields stretching endlessly on either side for miles. And late at night, there is a feeling that anything could be in those cornfields, just waiting for your car to break down and make you vulnerable. The quickest route home passed a place that made my skin crawl every single night. A cemetery cleaved in half by the road. One side was ancient, with crumbling tombstones from the 1800s, leaning like weary old men. Ancient pine trees circled the oldest burials, and they were usually surrounded by fog, curling around the trunks of the trees and the monuments. The other side was newer, cleaner, modern headstones, but no less eerie. I'd gun the engine every time I approached, holding my breath until I was past it. The natural surge of fear would rise, just like anyone has when brought face to face with a lonely country cemetery at night, with only the glow of their headlights and dashboard lights for any comfort. One of my coworkers, a born and raised Kansas native, laughed when I told her how much the cemetery spooked me. She had relatives buried there and claimed no one had ever seen a ghost near it. She was a fan of ghost stories, though, and she collected them like recipes passed down from kin. We became fast friends, bound by our shared interest in the supernatural. One Friday night, I got off work at the usual time, but instead of heading home, I stopped by another coworker's house for a quick chat. It was almost midnight when I finally got back on the road, and the fog had already begun to settle low across the valley like a ghost's breath. I cursed myself for not heading home earlier. At that hour, the road was empty. I hadn't passed another car since the last small town. The road was pitch black and eerie, no headlights in either direction, just me and the whispering dark, and the dead waiting up ahead. I approached the cemetery with my hands white-knuckled on the steering wheel. My old truck's headlights cut through the fog, illuminating twisted pine trees and weather-worn, moss-covered grave markers. My eyes searched the darkness, paranoid. My breath hitched. I didn't realize I'd been holding it until I made it past the cemetery gates and finally exhaled. I even let out a nervous chuckle. Stupid. I muttered to myself, "You scared yourself half to death over nothing. The dead won't hurt you. They can't hurt you." I reached up to turn on the radio, not realizing that even though I had made it past the cemetery, I wasn't in the clear yet. The road curved sharply up ahead, one of those dangerous, poorly designed turns that made my gut twist even in daylight. I sat forward, squinting through the windshield, easing off the gas to take the bend more cautiously. That's when I saw him. A man. He was walking along the shoulder of the road, back to me, bathed in the glow of my headlights. My foot instinctively moved toward the brake. My first thought was that he needed help. My second was, "Don't stop!" As a matter of fact, every instinct in my body screamed, "Don't stop!" But compassion is a tricky thing. I slowed anyway. As I drew closer, fog curled around his legs like ghostly fingers. It brought my attention to the weird outfit he was wearing. An old-fashioned outfit. A white button-down shirt, high-waisted slacks, and a dress jacket. Something from the 1940s, maybe earlier. Not the attire you usually find on a back road in Kansas in the middle of the night. His shoes were polished, though worn. My brain scrambled to rationalize. Maybe he was going to a costume party? A reenactment? But at this time of the night? I thought. But then I saw the blood. It soaked the left side of his head, matting his hair and dripping down onto his shoulder. His shirt was stained dark red. He turned slowly toward my truck, and I nearly screamed. His face was blank, expressionless. His eyes were distant, filmy, staring through me as if I didn't exist. Then I realized I could see through him. The old gnarled oak tree on the other side of the road was visible through his torso. I froze. Then he shifted. His eyes locked on mine, and his jaw dropped open, too far. It unhinged grotesquely, revealing a black yawning chasm. And from that void came a shriek, high-pitched, unearthly, like a soul being ripped from the body without warning. I screamed. I jerked the wheel without thinking. My foot hit the gas. The old truck roared forward as I tore around Dead Man's Curve like a bat out of hell. I didn't care if I flipped over. I just wanted to get away from whatever that was. I quickly glanced back in my mirror. He was no longer on the road, but I could see the taillights of an old car directly in front of the tree. It sat lopsided, as if it had not made the curve and had hit the tree. I knew that car was not real. I had just passed that tree, and no car had been there. I didn't let off the accelerator until I passed the welcome sign at the Atchison city limits. Only then did I start to breathe again. I didn't sleep much the next 2 days. I seriously considered quitting my job. I loved the work, but I wasn't sure it was worth the terror of that drive. Over time, I convinced myself it was just exhaustion. My mind playing tricks in the fog. It had to be, until I went back to work. That evening, over supper, I told my friend, the one who collected ghost stories about what had happened. I laughed nervously, brushing it off. But there was fear behind my words. I was hoping she would laugh like she did when I told her about being afraid of the cemetery. She listened quietly, then asked, "Was it by that huge oak tree, right up the road from the cemetery, the one that the road makes that super sharp turn in front of?" I nodded. She reached out and patted my arm, her voice suddenly serious. "You didn't imagine it. That curve has been haunted since the road was built. People see the dead there all the time. That's why you don't see much traffic out there at night." My stomach dropped. "I thought it was because of the cemetery," I said. She smiled. "I told you it's not haunted. It's the curve people are afraid of." She explained that the road had been cursed for decades. That same tree had scars along the trunk, deep gouges where cars had collided with it over the years. Before modern brakes and better engineering, that curve had claimed countless lives. "Every scar," she said, "marks another death." "They call it Dead Man's Tree," she added. "And that curve? It's been known as Dead Man's Curve since before I was born." I wanted her to be joking. I needed her to be joking. But she wasn't. She called our boss in and asked her out of the blue if she knew the spot. Without hesitation, our boss nodded and told the same story. Same name, same deaths, same ghost stories. "There isn't a local around that can't recount the same stories to you," she had said. "Turns out the curve was a compromise. A local landowner wouldn't sell a strip of property, so the road had to be built around it, forcing the sharp bend that became a portal to the grave for so many. After that, I changed my route. It added 10 minutes to my commute, but I didn't care. I avoided that road and the cemetery completely. When summer ended, I quit the job. I had to. I couldn't face another Kansas winter with its early nightfall and icy roads, knowing what might be waiting for me out there in the dark. I love that job, but I wasn't willing to risk becoming the next scar on that accursed dead man's tree.
We appreciate you, our viewers, so much. Please like, drop a comment, and subscribe to us so we can continue to grow the channel. Thanks for watching.